So, I keep telling you, I just got out of the shower and redone my hair. So it's like darker, and I actually don't like it that much. But I guess that's not the point of this video. I just keep putting it off because I keep saying that I'm going to do like a life update and all that shit. But the only thing that's changed in my life, you guys already know, that my cat died. And it's been almost 6 months, and talking about it still really sucks. So, if you've been on this page with me since the beginning, you've seen my cat a billion times. His name was Gunter. He was the Lynx Point Siamese. It's the first cat I ever owned. Awesome. Best friend. Slept with him every night. Took him everywhere. So in November, we were redoing our garage to kind of make like a sitting area in there, so like the kids can go in there and like there's like a TV and they can paint and be loud and whatever. So we're just, because our garage is huge, so we're just like half of the garage is like storage, and the other half's like a sitting area. Anyway, so at some point during us doing this, he slipped out of the house. It wasn't uncommon for me not to see him a lot during the day because they're cats and they sleep all the time. And we were all super busy, and we thought we had everybody locked up, and we obviously did not. So that night, I was like, "Where's the cat?" I was like, "Whatever, I'm going to bed," because I was physically exhausted. And he also really loved the couch that we put in the garage. So my assumption was he's in the garage, like, because he's in the garage. Like, that's kind of where he hung out if we were doing stuff and I wasn't readily available for him to sit directly on my body. So he would hang out in the garage. So whatever, went to bed. Got up the next day, and I was getting ready for work, and I was like, "Where the fuck is the cat?" It's like, that's weird. So I like went in the garage and called his name, and Gunter, I had him for so long that if I called his name, he would respond. Like, he would just meow back at me, so I knew where he was, even if he had gotten outside, which he's gotten outside probably 4 million times in his life. And I would just go outside and call him, and I could hear a meow from far off, and he would come. He would come to me. He didn't. If he heard me calling him, he would always come, always. And he did. I didn't hear anything, so I was like, "What the fuck?" Okay. Um, well, that's weird. He might be sleeping. And I felt weird all day because I was like, "Where the fuck is my cat?" Because that's so weird. So then I posted next door. I was like, "I don't know if anybody around here has seen my cat. He may have gotten out. I don't really know. Like, I may just be like paranoid because I can't find him. But, just keep an eye out," and posted some pictures like, "This is what he looks like." Then I started getting a ton of messages like, "Oh, I saw a dead cat on the street, and it looked like this cat, and oh, this cat I found, but it's a girl." And I'm like, "Well, those are not my cat." And also, now I'm in a panic, because I'm like, "Oh my gosh." I spent the whole next day, came home from work, and I drove around almost all night looking for my cat. And I couldn't find him. I had already called animal control and all the local shelters around here, and I gave them his microchip number. So I'm like, "This is his microchip number. Um, so you don't have to go through all the motions of putting it in the database and then finding the microchip company and then contacting them to contact me. You have the number. So if it scans this number, this is my cat, this is my number, you can directly just call me and cut out that middle time." Because in my brain, I'm like, they're going to get all these cats in intake and then not get to scan them or anything for a couple of days. And then that's just days that I'm out looking for my cat. So if I give everybody his microchip number, then they'll know that somebody's actively looking for this cat. When they see a cat that looks like this, they'll know that he has a home. Like, so it's in their brain now, right? If they find a cat that looks like my cat, they will know that somebody's out looking for him. So I had called them repeatedly, just repeatedly, because I just didn't know what else to do. And driving around, I was miles and miles from my house. Somebody's like, "Oh, I think I see a cat like this over here," or "I see a cat like this over there." And I'm like in people's neighborhoods, like screaming my cat's name at the top of my lungs, like slamming my car in park and jumping out every time I saw anything in bushes. I almost grabbed a fucking rabbit one time because I'm like delusional, and like devastated, crying, looking for my cat, and I didn't find him. So day 2, I'm like, I just have the worst feeling. Like, I don't know what else to do. Like, and I'm exhausted because I spending all my waking hours and I'm not at work looking for my fucking cat. And my husband worked overnights at the time. So in the day when he would get home, he would drive around and look for the cat for a little while before he had to go to bed. You know, we're all jumping up every time we hear any noise, and anytime I heard a cat meow, and there's a lot of cats in my neighborhood, I would jump up and run outside and look for the cat. And so on day 2, when I didn't find him, I was like, God, he's just gonna be at home when I get there. He has to be, because that's the only thing that can happen. Like, he has to be at home. And I get a call from animal control when I was at work, and I was like, hell yeah, they found my dumbass cat. So I answered the phone. I was like, hey, did you find him? And they were like, yeah, we found him. And I was like, okay, cool. I get off work. What time you guys close? This is what time I get off work. And they were just like, oh, no, we picked him up in the road across the street from your house, because I gave him my address. And I was like, why was he in the road? Like, what are you talking about? And they were like, oh, he's dead. He got hit by a car crossing the street from your neighbor's yard to your yard, and he got hit. And he's dead. But we close in like 2 hours, so we need you to get here and claim him today if you're gonna if you're gonna pick up his body. It needs to be now. So I'm like crying at work. Like, had to drive an hour from where I work to where he was, and go claim him so he didn't end up in like a garbage can somewhere. And I had no preparation at all to decide like what I was gonna do, like with like his remains, because I just didn't think he was gonna be dead. I just didn't. Like, I thought maybe he'd be hurt, and that's what got me the most. I'm like, what if he's hurt somewhere, and I'm not out here looking for him, and he's just out here hurt. Like, I was getting messages like, oh, I saw a cat on the road over here at 2 a.m., and I was getting out of my bed and going at 2 o'clock in the morning to go look at other people's dead pets in the street, hoping to God that it wasn't mine, but also kind of want some closure. So I guess that's my silver lining through it, is the fact that I know where he is, because I would have looked for this cat probably for the rest of my life. He was very important to me. And at some point, like, this shit has got to get better, right? Like, I should not still be crying 6 months later. But yeah, so I had to go get him. And that was such a traumatic experience. They gave him to me in a garbage bag that was wrapped up in a blanket that was covered in poop. Like, there was big chunks of shit all over this blanket that they gave me my cat in. And it was disgusting. I didn't register that at the time because I was so distraught. And they just handed him to me and walked off. And I'm just like in this lobby of like a animal shelter. Because it doesn't matter. Animal control works with a shelter, and they just kind of whatever. Anyway, so I had to go to the shelter, and there was like people in the lobby waiting to like adopt animals, and I'm just like bawling, holding this disgusting blanket, and they just walked off, and I was like, well, hold on, like, I have questions, like, do you guys have like a crematorium that you work with? And they were like, no. It's like, okay, I don't know what to do. So what do I do? Like, and they were like, I mean, what do you want me to say? I'm like, what? Is there somewhere around here? Like, does the human mortuary here do pets? Like, I don't know. I just moved here. Like, I don't know what to do. And they really didn't help me at all. They, like, kind of half-assed handed me a pamphlet of, like, what to do when your animals die, like, emotionally. And I'm like, I know that. I give this talk every day at work. You're not helpful. So I had to, like, figured it the fuck out, and I found a place that was close, and I called them. Also, in his, like, the whole time, I am in hysterics, like, hysterically crying, like, scream crying, devastated, like, devastated, like you see in the movies, screaming, and trying to talk on the phone to these people and set up this shit for me. So in the span of like an hour, I had to pick up my dead cat and then figure out what we were gonna do with his remains. And I don't think I necessarily made the best choices because I wasn't sure that I wanted to have him cremated. But then, to be honest with you, I did not have the money to do that at the time. Like, I had just started a new job, I had just gone full time. I didn't have money yet. So I really didn't have the money to get him cremated. I took it from my savings, obviously, and I did that. But I just, like, panicked at the thought of him being in, like, a vat with a bunch of other dead animals, or, like, in a garbage can somewhere. And I just thought about bringing him home to bury him, but I rent this house, and my husband was like, hey, we'll do whatever you want to do, but I don't think that I could personally handle it if once we move, because I know you and you're going to make me dig him up and take him. I'm like, that's true. I definitely would make you dig him up so we could take him. So this whole time, for beginning to end, I'm holding a disgusting shit-covered blanket to my chest like this. And I drove over to the people at that mortuary here were like the nicest humans to exist. They were I'm sure they deal with people being hysterical all the time, so they really handled it very correctly for me. They were very patient. They were like, yes, come right now, like, we'll walk you through everything. So I walked in this bitch, I flung the door open, and it just like slammed against the wall, and the wind was really bad, so I had to like try to like pry it closed while holding a fucking dead cat. It was so horrible. Like, I had to, I was sitting here talking to her, and she's like, well, I'm gonna get you in a room in just a second, and we can sit here and talk. And there's like a couple next to me. I don't know what they were doing, not a clue, but I was terrifying them because I was like screaming, like bawling. Like, at this point I had calmed down enough to where I wasn't like screaming. I was just crying. Like, and they put me in a room, put a magazine in front of me that had like all these different like options for like urns and stuff, and I could not focus my eyes like to figure it out. Like, everything, I hated it. Every urn was horrible to me, even though I'm sure they were actually lovely and fine, but I hated everything that I saw, and I was like, this is terrible, I hate it, and I'm just like bawling. So I was like, whatever, just whatever, but give me whichever box. I don't care, as long as I can open it, because I will get him an urn made at some point, because I hate all of these. And she was like, okay, deal, sign here, give me your money. And I was like, all right, here you go. Like, take it. Definitely it's not a great financial decision for me, but I have some really good friends that pitched in and helped. God, this sucks to relive, to be honest. It's really why I put this off for so long. Anyway, so then she told me somebody was going to come take him from me, and I said, okay, and she left me in the room by myself. I'm just crying, and I didn't hear the guy come in the room, and he didn't say anything to me because he was not like a customer servicey person. Like, he was just doing his job. His job was point A, point B, and he came at me from the side, and I didn't see him, and he tried to take my cat out of my arms, and I started yelling at him. I was like, what the fuck, stop it, no. And he was like, oh, I'm so sorry. And I was like, no, I'm so embarrassed, I'm sorry, here you go. He's like, well, if you're not ready, you don't have to. And I was like, no, it's fine. And he put his hand on my shoulder, and he said, don't you worry, I will take such good care of him. I'm going to hold him the whole time. sent flowers over there afterwards because they really made that whole situation a lot easier. I had to pause. Hold on. Okay. I'm really distressing my dogs right now, being so emotional. Come here. It's okay. Okay. It's okay. We'll go play in a minute, okay? Stop. Stop. Boy. Why are you talking back to me right now? Okay. I'm a little more composed now. This was November, and it still gets me this hard when I talk about what happened. And I'm honestly, if you have comments to say that, oh, it was just a cat, just immediately go fuck yourself and don't comment that on my shit. Like, I'm sorry that you've never experienced that kind of like connection with an animal that I have. And fuck you. So don't. Just don't. Okay. So, this was horrific. I had to go back to work the next day. Also awful. Shouldn't have done that. But, you know, it is what it is. And, so the day after that, they called me and told me he was ready. And I went to pick him up. And here's where he sits. I slept with this urn for 3 months probably, if not longer. Anytime I'm sitting, I'll still put it on my shoulder. That's where Gunter always was. He has a perch, you know, where he sits up with like my lizards and stuff, so that other cats can like, you know, spend time with them too. He sits on a shelf. I haven't found an urn that I haven't found one yet that I felt like fit him. So we're still in just a very generic box that I do not love. Like I'm going to tell you, I think this is a really hideous urn, and I actually don't like it at all. It's not personal. But I still take him places. I took him outside to see the first snow. Because he never got to see it. He never saw snow. And I show him stuff when I get stuff or whatever. He sits next to his painting that my mom got me made for Christmas. So that's I don't know if everybody knows this or if it's just a southern thing. I'm not sure, but it's supposed to be whenever you see a cardinal. It just means that somebody you love is watching over you or visiting you. So my mom got me this. And it sits right next to him to just say, hey, you know, he's still around. He's still watching over you. So yeah. It's been pretty rough. Since then, we adopted another cat. Not a replacement cat. It just kind of happened that way. So for that, he can be his own video. This is already getting pretty long. But yeah. That sucked. And that's an update of life. I'll try to do a couple of these. I'll do one about my new cat and how he came to be and his whole story. I've suffered a lot of loss in the last few months since I moved here. I've actually lost I've had a lot of loss. My hedgehog died. She was 1 billion years old, so she died just of old age. She was like 7 or 8, and hedgehogs only usually in captivity live to be about 4 or 5. So she was 1 billion years old. And that really sucked. You guys know that I had a tank full of rescue geckos, and 2 of them have passed, but they've all kind of been on their last leg since I got them. So that wasn't abnormal. They all have metabolic bone disease. The 2 that are left are actually very strong, and they seem to, with their insane mother, they're actually have come a really long way. Yeah, so those are the they kind of expected passings. My lizards I knew weren't gonna make it long. I bought them for like $20 a piece, like because they were all super sickly looking in a PetSmart, and when I still lived in Florida, and I just bought the whole tank. So to try to help them. You know, I worked at an exotic vet at the time, and they were like, like, I'm not sure these guys are gonna make it. And I was just like, well, you know, they got a better chance of me than they do the PetSmart. So we get two of those guys that are actually doing really well. Turns out they're a breeding pair, which is something that I found out when I found gecko eggs. So we'll kind of see how that fucking goes. And I also didn't know that any of them were female. They were not supposed to be. They're all supposed to be males. It's hard to tell when they're that little, though. And even with geckos, it's hard. But, oh yeah, and my snake passed away randomly. Like, he was totally fine. Never missed a meal. Had him out on Thursday. Fed him. Got him out on Saturday. Had him hanging out with me. Cleaned his tank. And then Sunday, he was dead. And I don't want to hear the people in the comments going, well, did you check his levels? And blah, 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 blah. Obviously, I did. And, you know, when somebody has a lot of animals, when they pass, you're really labeled as a terrible pet owner, so I don't really love to talk about it. And that's just pretty frustrating for me because, like, I spend my whole life taking care of animals. That is my job. That is what I do, and I've been doing it for a really long time, and I'm fucking good at it, so I know what I'm doing. That just happens sometimes, and it sucks. It really sucks. Yeah. Anyway, see you later.